All right, welcome to my ultimate guide to gloves. We have a massive array of gloves here, and on first glance this could be really quite daunting. So we're going to break it down into quite easy to digest sections, as it were. I think what I would do is I would talk about some gloves that I would not recommend for what we tend to do if you're watching my channel, which is hiking, backpacking, getting into the backcountry and such like, and I'll explain why. If you're dog walking or you can get home and you can dry your gloves, then these are okay. But I don't recommend Windstopper because they're not waterproof, and these particular ones, they're very nice. They're fine for dog walking, local walks and things like that, but they're not particularly warm. So your hands will get cold in them if it's quite chilly. If it rains, your hands are going to get wet, or the gloves will get wet, and it will take forever to dry out. So if you're coming home, it's not really a major problem. The biggest problem with Windstopper type gloves is they're usually quite thin and not really very warm. I do like Arc'teryx, and I did buy these quite a long time ago. These go back probably 15 years, and I used to use them quite a lot for day walks and things like that. They're showing there. My fingers aren't that shape anymore. And I burnt them. I burnt that one, and I burnt that one on the stove when I was preparing food once. This is a soft shell type of glove, and again, quite similar to that. Yeah, they'll keep your hands warm if it's not too cold. They're obviously very good for holding ice axes and maybe climbing, technical stuff. Things like that. But for walking and what we do, if they get wet, which likely they are, you're never going to dry them out, in camp. So again, soft shell gloves, yes, they have their place, but personally, not backpacking type of thing that we do. If we kind of start at the back, if you want a very, very warm glove, then obviously the warmest that you are going to get is going to be a mitten, something similar to this, with down, inside, a nose wipe, nice soft nose wipe on the back, and clearly, those will keep your hands warm in very, very cold conditions. I've not been in very, very cold conditions. I bought them, 10 years ago, and I still haven't worn them, but maybe one day we will get to use them. The next one down from that, and heavier than this, is this Black Diamond pair. Now this is actually quite interesting because if you're using ice axes, walking poles, that type of thing, then you really want to have some sort of leather or grip or something like that on the palm of your hands so that you can hold things and the gloves won't wear out. This particular pair here has a Gore-Tex outer, so it will keep rain out. But this pair, and again, because they're so warm, I have to admit I've not used these, but this particular pair has a removable liner. Now, one thing that I've found with waterproof gloves, and personally I'm not a big fan of Gore-Tex waterproof gloves where you can't take the liner out, and we'll come on to those in a minute. with this type of glove, because you can separate it if the inner gets wet or the outer gets wet. You can separate the two articles and have a slightly better chance of potentially drying them out. The other thing that you could do, if this did get wet and you had another pair of gloves, you could put your other glove on and put that inside there. So when you're trying to dry out the glove that came with this, you could use a different glove inside it. And the beauty with this type of system is that it's impossible to pull the lining of your Gore-Tex glove out, making it potentially dangerous, you know, when you need to put your hand back in again. And because you've pulled the lining out, as can happen with some, you can't get your glove back on again. But with this, because there is no lining, you can put your glove on, and then it fits inside there like that. You know, obviously this is, you know, a very, very heavy duty, you know, type of glove. So again, for most of what we do, we're probably not going to need that. But if you're in very, very cold conditions, you're doing a lot of things with snow or something like that, then that might be very useful. A slightly lighter version is this mountain hardware. I don't know whether they still make these, now. I've had these for a very long time, but you'd be able to get something similar. This is a gauntlet style of glove, comes up your wrist. The other thing you just want to be aware of, you need to be able to know whether your jacket will go under the glove or over the glove. If you're walking with walking poles, then ideally you want to have the glove over the jacket, because your hands are going to be up here. So if it's raining or snowing, snow's not going to get, you know, into the glove, because you're kind of going to be walking like this. If you're not using walking poles, and maybe you're using more an ice axe, or you're just walking and your hands are down by your side, then you want to make sure that your jacket will fit over the glove, so that when rain or snow runs down, it doesn't get inside the glove. So, you know, that's just something else just to bear in mind. Again, with these gloves, they've got a really strong padded grip here, so they're not going to wear out, you know, very quickly. You can see that the soft bit there, and I think I'm even starting to deposit bits of black because I've had these so long, and we just don't get the cold weather down south, so I've not really used these. But this pair here, the lining inside them doesn't appear to pull out, and my hands are starting to get a little bit sweaty. So the lining in those does appear to stay inside, but that's just something to bear in mind if you're in a shop. Hot tip time, and you're trying on gloves. Leave your hands in them for a few minutes. Let your hands get a bit on the hot, sweaty side. Pull the glove out, and then see whether you can easily get your glove or your hand back in again. And yes, that works reasonably well, because you want to just make sure that the lining on a Gore-Tex glove doesn't pull out when you take your glove off. So it's just something to be cautious of. This is a pair of gloves that I got recently. This is a slightly smaller, slightly lighter version of these. This is the Mountain Equipment Guide glove. This is Gore-Tex. Or no, this isn't Gore-Tex. I think this is their own proprietary waterproofing on there. I did notice with these that when I pulled the glove out, or when I pulled my hand out in the Lake District, that I did have a little bit of a fiddly job getting one of my pinkies back in again. So the lining on these, I think it's pretty well fitted. It's not coming out as such, but I did notice that on at least one occasion it wasn't perfect. So you just need to be, you know, just a little bit cautious that the lining inside doesn't come out, because if the lining came all the way out and you were in a cold situation, or the fingers come out and you can't get your hand back in your glove again, you've got a completely useless glove. So they're mostly okay. It's just something, just be careful when you're taking your hand out. Rab do this Pertex synthetic filled glove. Now you're getting much lighter. These are quite popular. I've seen some people use them. You've got the grippy on the palm, you know, there, which is a little bit reinforced, you know, so it doesn't wear out or anything like that. These are not waterproof, so if it rains, these will get wet. And when they get wet, as I found out, they're not very nice. I like them, but I'm not a huge fan of this particular type of insulated mitten. They're lightweight, but like I said, they're not waterproof. And when they're wet, they're like manky. I didn't really like them. I was disappointed, to be honest, I was disappointed in those. And I also think, and I also seem to remember that I was pulling the lining out on these. Well, not pulling the lining out as such, but the lining was coming forward. You can kind of see it's pulling forward on the thumb there. So when you go to put your hand back in again, it does, but it's a little bit, it's okay, but it's a little bit fiddly. Like I said, the ones with the lining in, they're okay, but they're not my favourite. Really, the very, very best system that you can use is a liner glove, a mid-weight fleece glove, and an over mitt. And that way everything is separate, nothing can get pulled out, and if you do lose a glove, at least you've got other, you know, backup gloves. You could use merino gloves. This is a merino type of glove. Very nice, very soft, very comfortable. I must admit, I don't take these camping so much because they're a little bit heavier than these, but they probably would be fine, but they're going to wear out very, very, you know, quickly. They won't last very long, and they're kind of too nice to wear out. But, you know, you could, if you could get a merino glove, a thicker merino glove, that would be an option. You can get these funny little lightweight gloves like this. These are quite handy for in camp, something like that, when it's just a little bit on the cold side and you just want something on your hands to keep your hands warm in camp. And again, something with these, if you have an over mitt, then you can put your over mitt over the top, and that is surprisingly warm because the over mitt keeps the wind off, keeps the rain off, and then the glove is what's keeping your hand warm. Obviously this is a very, very thin glove. The over mitt can be a little bit, you know, clunky and everything, but they're really there just to, you know, hold your walking sticks or something like your walking poles. You know, you can do them up with things here and things there. Just, they're not really very useful for doing anything, just protecting your hands. When it starts to get colder, you could, if you wanted to, use a very thin liner glove like this. So this is an icebreaker liner glove. You could use these, and this liner glove you could wear under any of those, or you could wear, and I've done this, you could wear this under a fleece glove. So you could wear a fleece glove like that with a liner, and then you've effectively got two, or if you want an even lighter mitt, these are Mountain Laurel Design mitts, and you could put that over the top of that. So, you know, like I said, it's a little bit clunky this way, but as a system, when you're out, you know, in the field, this, you know, this is a much better way of protecting your hands than any of those. Those are fine, but doing, you know, a layering system like this is really the way forward. These gloves are Polartec Power Stretch, and I find them fine for most conditions. You could probably go down to -2 or 3 or 4 with a Polartec Power Stretch, maybe a liner with them. You would definitely want either a lightweight over mitt like these Mountain Laurel Design ones, or, you know, a slightly heavier but still quite light extremities over mitt. These over mitts have, you know, a padded palm here, so they will last a little bit longer, and they will give you a little bit of grip, but they're a little bit heavier, but not much. There's just grams in it. And that system with over mitts and a power stretch glove, you should be good to -2 or 3, you know, in most conditions. When it starts to get to about -5 or -6, then you might want a slightly thicker fleece glove. Now, I don't know whether they actually make these anymore. I've looked online and I struggle to see Polartec WindPro. These are quite a thick pair, and I've actually got about 3 pairs of them, which is a good job I've got so many, because I'm not sure that you can get these in this quite thick material. But this is Polartec WindPro. This is quite a thick fleece glove, and again, you could use this either by itself. You could put a very light liner glove under it, and then of course when it's particularly cold and wet, put that over mitt over the top. Like I said, yes, again, you know, it's a little bit, you know, it reduces what you can do with your fingers, obviously, but this is the absolutely the best way to go. It beats all of those, obviously depending on conditions and weather and everything else, but you know, a 2 or 3 layer glove system is the, you know, is the very best way that you can do it. And I've used these warm WindPro fleece gloves. If you can't get thick WindPro, you know, try and find a different type of fleece glove, but fleece or something like that in a glove is really useful, because I've used these on Dartmoor and my hands have got wet. These, you know, everything's got wet because, you know, it happens. But this system, with these mountain roll design ones as well, but it would work the same with those extremities, Gore-Tex gloves. But my hands were wet, and it was probably about -3, -4, something like that. And I was warm in it. I was walking, but I found this system, you know, even when wet, it's not ideal. So that's why it's handy to take 2 or 3, you know, pairs of gloves with you. So if they do get wet, then you can swap them around if necessary. But even when wet, this is a really, really good warm, you know, system, because fleece will keep your hands warm, you know, even when it is damp. And if they start to get a bit too cold because they're a bit wet, then take them off. And if you've got your jacket, put them inside your jacket pocket, and then they'll warm up and they'll dry out inside your jacket pocket. And because they're simply just fleece and there's no Gore-Tex, there's no waterproofness to stop water getting out of them, they will dry in your jacket, or they'll get drier. And then put another pair of gloves on, and once again, put your over mitts on. You know, and even if they're wet, they will still keep your hands, you know, dry. So that's a few, you know, tips there. Another pair of gloves that I've found that I like to use, and they're very lightweight, are these mountain hardware gloves. Again, I've had these for donkeys. I've probably worn at least one pair of these out. There's no gripping or reinforcement on the palm, so, you know, they won't last forever. But this, I don't know what this material is. It's not a soft shell. It's like a fleece, but it's like a stretch type of fleece. And this is surprisingly warm. You know, when you're walking. On the last trip in the Lake District, it was about 2 or 3 degrees. Frost was on the ground, and I was wearing these by themselves, and there was no wind in the air. There was no wind. And these kept my hands very, very warm. Just simply this light pair of gloves, because there was no wind. Obviously, wind can get through these gloves. All of these gloves here, they're all windproof, so the wind won't get through those. But when they get wet, they're going to be a bugger to dry, apart from this one to a degree, because you can take the inner out. Obviously, these you're not going to be wearing in the wet anyway. But none of these fleece gloves here, they're not windproof. The WindPro, which is why I like the WindPro, but they just seem more difficult to get now. The WindPro, they are knitted much more densely than normal fleece. So the WindPro is more windproof, wind resistant maybe, than regular fleece. But these, you know, generally they're not windproof. They might keep a draft out, but they're not windproof. That's why you need an overmit, one to keep the wind out, and obviously if it's raining, they're going to get wet very quickly. So then you want an overmit to keep the rain off as well. But just a simple light glove like that is surprising. If there's no wind at all and you're walking, then even something light like this will keep your hands, you know, fairly warm. But like I said, if you have very, very cold hands, like probably the girls and such, like their hands probably get much colder much more quickly, then probably something like Power Stretch, Polytech Power Stretch, or a warmer fleece glove really is the way to go. Just try and find a nice comfortable fleece glove, preferably with some reinforcement or padding on it so it just doesn't wear out too quickly. And these, they will keep your hands easily warm down to -5, -6, especially with an overmitt. But I just wanted to stop and show you. Let's go back. And I'm trying to get this glove on, this rab glove, and it's a muck. Sorry. How, you know, it's damp, it's wet. How one fucking hell. And this is fucking dangerous, you know. How do I get my fingers in there? That is just fucking ridiculous, you know. Maybe I've just got my fingers in, but sorry, Rab, but I don't know, have you changed the design? I can't fucking do it. That's awful. Yeah, something like this, which, you know, just isn't made anymore. I'm not saying that it's, you know, I'm not saying that it's mega easy, but for fuck's sake, sorry, but that is just, why are people not using WindPro anymore? Why this shit? I don't get it. But that is awful. You know, like I said, I've had them, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. Maybe they've changed the design and maybe the inners won't come out or pull out. But that is, can you imagine that was your pair of gloves and you were limited to that and you couldn't get them on properly? At least with this I can get the bloody thing on and it doesn't matter if it's wet. All I need to do is just put like a waterproof overmitt over it. I don't get that. I don't know what it is with those. Maybe it's just the pair I've got. But that is immensely frustrating. And for the life of me, I don't know why WindPro is not used anymore. I've still got pairs at home. I think even the Power Shield would work fine. I got these on Amazon. I'll remember and put a link below, you know, if you're interested. It's just I can get them on. They're blocking out a lot of the wind. I don't know what the temperature is. I've packed my thing away, but it's probably about 6 degrees or something like that. Polartec companies make more WindPro, but it's really, really manky, miserable weather. It's blowing a gale. It's really very, very unpleasant. Cold, wet weather. And I can barely feel the breeze or the wind through these gloves. I can just feel it, but only just. So
You know, if you've never tried, and the new crop of people probably haven't, if you've never tried WindPro gloves, get a pair. Link below. No, but seriously, I mean, it's miserable weather, it's cold, it's wet. These are almost certainly quite damp. They're probably not soaked, but they're almost certainly quite damp. And I've not put an overmitt over them. You know, nothing. You know, they're definitely wet. You know, they're definitely soggy. You know, I think if I took them off and then put them back on again, they'd be a bit manky. But you'd probably, you know, you're walking, you'd warm up again. And because they're so, you know, breathable, if it actually stopped bloody raining, your hands would probably help dry them out just from the walking. So I just wanted to, I don't understand why they're not made now. Obviously they weren't popular, but I don't understand why. I don't get it. Anyway, I just wanted to add this in. I mean, maybe it's because they don't last so long. I don't know. Just get another bloody pair. Anyway, I just wanted to add that in. You know, if you've never tried WindPro, try and find some, anything. Just find gloves with Polartec WindPro.
After making my video, I thought, okay, let's think more about gloves, because most of the gloves that I have, you know, I had a while, and obviously my favourite, the WindPro, you can't get in the thick ones anymore. So I was kind of sort of thinking, well, it's a helpful video, but not completely helpful. So I did a teeny weeny bit of nosing, and I got hold of these from Blacks, I think. This is Extremities Primaloft glove. So I will give these a try. I did read a review that Chris Townsend had put on these. There's some padding there and there, I think for phone and such like as well. So they may be, you know, quite, I think that's going to be a very, very warm glove. And from what I can tell, I don't feel like, because there is a Primaloft insulation sort of inside, and I don't feel like the lining is going to slip with my finger when I'm taking the you know, the hand out. So I'm going to try these. These are called X-Dry. So this is the Furnace Pro glove. So I'm going to give those a try, and this is probably as close to the WindPro as you're going to get. It's fleecy like with a Primaloft filling inside, and that's probably as close as you're going to get to WindPro without being WindPro. I also thought, well, I'll try these Montane. I actually think they're pretty much identical to the Rab gloves. These are the Pertex Quantum by Montane, and they really do feel very, very similar, if not probably exactly the same as the Rab. The only difference is the Rab seems to have this black material there. I don't know whether the Rab now has touch screen. I don't know whether that's touch screen or not. I'm guessing that is touch screen. kind of. It works-ish. It's not that brilliant. It's kind of, it just works. So that is touchscreen, just. I doubt this is because I've had these quite a while, but we will see. No. No, so the RAB ones definitely aren't. So I don't know whether RAB have added new touchscreen technology to their gloves or not. So I will give these a try and see how I get on. But I do notice that the same thing, when I pull my hand out and my thumb, you can see it's starting to bunch up in the same way as that does there. And I don't know why, but when my hands are wet, I certainly found with these, and I don't know about these, but I just found that something with the lining inside, it kind of bunches up or does something odd that when I try to put my hand back in again, it just won't, I can't get my fingers in again properly. But like I said, I will give these a try and we'll see how we get on with those. And then I also got these, kind of couldn't resist just as we were messing around with gloves. These buffalo mitts. So I can't really say anything very much about any of this stuff because, you know, I haven't worn it or tried it yet, but I got it and I thought I would just add it in at the very end of the video for anyone that's still watching. So these are just a few gloves that I picked up. So this is the buffalo mitts. So, you know, that might be more applicable to what I'm doing in this country than the PhD ones, quite possibly at the moment. So that's buffalo mitts. They certainly seem very, very warm. These Primaloft Furnace Pro glove, they feel very, very cozy and warm, and I think with a waterproof mitt over that, I think that would be very, very warm. That feels very warm. Watch this space. We will see how we get on, you know, with these 3 new pairs of gloves, as if I don't have enough gloves, and we'll see how we get on. So if you did get this far in this ridiculously long video, you know, thank you very, very much, and I'll see you in the next video. One tip that I did hear from someone very recently was if you wear, and I think it would probably have to be quite cold to do this, but I don't know, I've not tried it, but if you wear a surgical glove under gloves, then obviously the sweat doesn't get into your gloves. It stays within the surgical glove and the moisture can get out from the top here, and that might also help some people, you know, with gloves and things like that. But like I said, I've never tried it, so I don't know. I just thought I'd just mention it. And now I can't get that glove off. Oh, I put it off like that.